Hello, welcome back to Figures Friday with Johnny Tiger. Very obvious that this is a makeup video for yesterday's Missing Toys Thursday. I fully intended to get it done yesterday, but uh, it was one of those super productive but very chaotic and busy day. At the end of the day, I simply did not have the energy to uh, get this video done. As most of you who been following the channel would know, Toy Thursday is probably one of the more involved videos, even though you don't see me do much. But a lot of time, Toy Thursday is the most involved because it takes the longest to uh, research on what I need to talk about and set up the action figure and make sure that things are all in order before and during the video. So, anyway, better late than never. Here it is, Figures Friday, and it is uh, February 4th, 2022. Before we start, I want to say a quick happy birthday to my sensei, Alan Galang. Happy birthday, sensei. Hopefully, you are having a good, very fulfilled birthday, celebrating with your family and loved ones. So yes, it is the year of the tiger. We've been talking about that on this past few episodes. So that is why we got a big tiger head statue in front of the camera right now. But don't worry, that is not what we are going to be looking at for the whole video. I just want to use that to start the video for the next few episodes. We're going to take a little break from the grandpas that throw down. There's a few more that I want to show, but because it is the year of the tiger, and honestly, I've been waiting for this chance to showcase figures that can represent year of the tiger for quite a while. So I want to segue over to these and then come back to the grandpas later. The grandpas are a little bit tired. They need a vacation. So this is not just the year of the tiger. This is, in fact, the year of the water tiger. Now, for those of you who are not up to date or you have missed those episodes, what that means is in Chinese zodiac, Chinese fortune telling, you don't just go by the 12 animals. So there's, of course, the 12 zodiac, the 12 animals, depending on which year you're born. You might be the year of the tiger, you might be the year of the rabbit, and so on and so on. But what also taking into consideration is the five element. Are you a metal element? Are you a water element? Are you a fire element? Are you earth or wood? How can you tell which element you are? Well, it's very simple actually. You go by the number, the last digit of your birth year. So if your birth year ends in 0 or 1, you would be metal. 2 or 3 would be water. 4 or 5 would be wood. 6 or 7 would be fire. And 8 and 9 would be wood. So you can calculate that yourself. And so when you combine your element and your animal, that will give you a more detailed uh, description of your personality and your fortune and all that stuff. Because make no mistake, a metal rooster and a fire rooster can be drastically different, even though they're both a year of the rooster. Similarly, a fire monkey versus a fire ox can be drastically different as well. So there's a lot more complexity to Chinese astrology and zodiac. So since this is the year of the water tiger, and what is a water tiger, you may ask? A water tiger, of course, is a shark. So we are going to look at the one character that can best represent the year of the water tiger. Let me present to you the infamous, notorious villain from the Marvel Universe, Tiger Shark, aka Todd Arlis, though most people do not know him by that name anymore, because for now, right now, he's known to the world, to his superhero enemies, to his fellow supervillains as just Tiger Shark. Standing at 6'1" and weighing roughly 450 pounds, this powerhouse of a character look on the surface like your traditional big and dumb bruiser, with some kind of monstrous mutation to his head and body. But behind his fearsome reputation and his mighty strength, there is a very tragic story. Todd Arnes was once a normal human being like you and I. Well, I mean, some people debate how normal I am, but anyway. Todd Arliss was normal, growing up with his sister Diane Arliss. His sister took care of him when he was little, so when they grew up, he vowed to take good care of her. It is to that end that Todd worked very, very hard, and he excelled especially in athletic, in particular in swimming. Todd Arlis became an Olympic level swimmer in the 1960s, and he decided to use his swimming skill to do exhibitions and took out a lot of endorsement, and he was making really good money, and he was taking good care of his sister just as he said he was going to. However, one time when he was coming home from one of these exhibitions, he saw a person falling overboard from the ship. Because him being such a strong swimmer, Todd Arliss jumped into the water to rescue the person. But during the rescue, a giant wave slammed his body against the side of the boat, breaking his spine in many places, effectively ending his swimming career. That, needless to say, sort of drove him over the edge, and he became a little bit messed up in the head, and he became totally uh, engrossed in finding the doctor, finding the person, the one person in the world that could restore his mobility. Honestly, this is something that Johnny Tiger himself can really relate to. I mean, if someone can tell me that there is a doctor in the world that can make me see again today, I don't know. I may just go as nuts as Todd Arliss in trying to find that person. But the only difference is Todd Arliss actually had money, so he could pay for a lot of these stuff. But Johnny Tiger is kind of poor, so can't afford getting the best doctors out there. But anyway, we're getting a little bit far from the story. Todd Arliss tried many, many, many treatments. He went to good doctors, bad doctors, real doctors, fake doctors, witch doctors, Chinese doctors, white doctors, black doctors. He went to many, many doctors, but nothing was working until he found the evil scientist, Dr. Dorcas. Dr. Dorcas was working on a very unethical experiment. His theory was if he could combine shark DNA with human DNA, he could make the person take on traits of the shark, including strength and speed and regeneration, and it would make the person immune to cancer. Doesn't sound too bad on the outset, but anyway, this was an unethical experiment that Dr. Dorcas was conducting. Well, Todd Arliss was so desperate that, to the dismay of his sister Diane, he signed on to the experiment and put himself through all those painful, excruciating procedures, being combined with the DNA of all different kinds of shark in the world. However, unbeknownst to him, at the time when he was undergoing treatment and these brutal experiments, something happened. on the island that the experiment was taking place. This was the time when Prince of Atlantis, Submariner uh, Neymar, for those of you who don't know, is the royalty, the ruler of the undersea kingdom in Marvel Universe. So he's kind of complicated because Namor is one of those guys that sometimes he's good guy, sometimes he's bad guy, and uh, you never know which side he's going to fight on. But to give you guys a more simplified view of Namor's capability, just imagine underwater Superman, super strength, super speed, and can communicate with and command all the sea animals and have regeneration and superhuman endurance and all that stuff. Yeah, so he's basically like an underwater Superman in the Marvel universe. So Namor just finished a battle with his enemy, and he was badly injured, and he ended up passing out on the beach on the island that Dr. Dorcas was conducting his experiment. This was like a gift from heaven to Dr. Dorcas, taking uh, Namor in and wired him up to the machines. Dr. Dorcas infused Todd Arliss with Namor's DNA as well as the sharks. Now this was something crazy. This was something that uh, most people would say that that's great. You're getting the DNA of a superhuman, especially a super powerful superhero like Namor in your body. However, Namor's DNA combining with the shark's DNA became way too powerful for Todd Arliss to handle, and it drove him insane. After destroying the laboratory and badly uh, beating up Dr. Dorcas and Namor really badly, Todd Arliss jumped into the ocean, declared himself to no longer be Todd Arliss. From now on, he's going to be the invincible and evil tiger shark. Tiger Shark swam down and down into the deepest part of the ocean because now his superhuman body was so tough that he could actually go to the deepest part of the ocean without suffering any adverse effect. More so, other than his super tough body and his super strength, Tiger Shark found that he could hear and talk and see perfectly fine, even underwater. He swam all the way to the undersea kingdom of Atlantis, and once he was there, he started beating people up. He started challenging all the Atlanteans to single combat. He went as far as defeating the general of Atlantis, who was left in charge of the kingdom at the time because Prince Namor was out there doing God knows what. Uh, and Tiger Shark beat the general so bad that he was almost killed the general of Atlantis. Now, for those of you who don't know, Atlantis people, the Atlanteans, they're not like human beings. They're like superhuman. All of them are a little bit stronger and tougher and have super speed and all of that. Prince Namor just happened to be like the best of them. But all the Atlanteans were super tough. And the Atlantean general, of course, would be no joke either. Well, Todd Arliss, now Tiger Shark, uh, beat him in single combat and almost killed him. The council decided, well, maybe we should just put him in charge for now, just so he wouldn't kill everybody. So they told Tiger Shark, yeah, okay, you know what, you defeated everybody. Go ahead, you can be the leader of Atlantis. So Tiger Shark became the king of Atlantis for a couple of days. A few days later, the now fully recovered Prince Namor finally arrived back at Atlantis, and after fighting the Tiger Shark in single combat, he showed the Tiger Shark who's who and what's what, and basically kicked him out of Atlantis and threw his butt in jail. However, the tiger shark will not stay in jail long, and he will escape. And from there on, he constantly show up in Marvel Comics, sometimes fighting Spider-Man, sometimes fighting the Punisher, sometimes fighting the Avenger, and sometimes fighting other superheroes. Wherever there's a need for someone super strong and super scary and just a big, muscly meathead in the villain's camp, Tiger Shark is always one of the more prime choice. He is not your A-list supervillain like Ultron or Thanos or those, and he's definitely not nowhere near to be your B-list supervillains uh, like Bullseye and those guys. But he is um, relatively scary. I mean, this is a guy. When you really think about it, Todd Arliss was a swimmer. He didn't know how to fight. He had no, even as Tiger Shark, he really had no hand-to-hand combat technique or skill. But he was able to use his savage strength and super tough body alone to defeat the general of Atlantis and even Prince Namor uh, find him quite a handful to defeat. So that's kind of show you how big and strong and scary this guy is. And just look at him. He is so muscular that it's kind of impressive. This action figure was made by Hasbro in the early days when they first took over the Marvel superhero license and started the Marvel Legends line. He was made in 2015, so he is showing a little bit of his age, but still really well constructed figure. Now there's some good and some bad about him, and we're going to take a quick look at him before we wrap up the story of Todd Arliss, because there's really not that much to go on. Todd Arliss, aka Tiger Shark, really is one of those supervillains that for the most part, he is like a space filler. He's a filler character. He is a big beefy guy who, if some supervillain want to start a gang or want to take over the world, and they say, hey, we need someone who's strong, and I'll say, oh, let's get Tiger Shark. He's not very bright, and he's willing to smash things and tear people apart. And so, yeah, Tiger Shark usually runs with guys like Armadillo and Grim Reaper and the Masters of Evil, those guys. So he's kind of like that henchman, that strong and dumb henchman character. Uh, so there's not much to his story other than what we've already gone through, but the figure itself is quite interesting. He is built on one of the stock bodies that Hasbro uses uh, and reuses some more for the action figure. I will be honest, I mentioned this before. Being a blind collector, I hate this practice of reusing a generic body. I don't mind if they reuse an arm here and a leg there and upper chest is here and upper chest there. But when I buy an action figure, and to me it feels effectively identical to 10 other action figures from the same company, that makes me feel like I'm wasting my money. Uh, I know it's expensive to make toys nowadays and all that stuff, and they got to cut cost. But you know what? Them cutting cost is not helping me cutting cost. So I can't really get on board with this idea of reuse body like that. Um, with that said, this body is one of the larger muscular male body in their inventory that they reuse. They use this body for big meathead, beefy uh, figures like tiger shark, saber tooth, and many other big beefy guys. So I have seen this body many times because I have a huge Marvel collection. Um, I hate seeing this so often, but if we just look at it at what it is a well constructed, very well sculpted, super muscly body, to be sure. Because of it having to be able to get reused so often, all the details are painted on, and there's very little sculptural details for you to feel if you are a blind collector like myself. Basically, all you'll be feeling is a human, gigantic human muscular body with, like, for all you know, it's naked or not naked or wearing spandex or wearing t-shirt because all those details are just painted on. So it's really hard for us to appreciate it other than how muscular the build is. Now this body, despite of my personal gripe about them reusing it so often, is really well articulated. Like if you are the kind of guy who like repose and play with your action figures, then this is a bit of a hand candy. I used this term before. It's the kind of figure that you can fiddle around really, really well because he's got double jointed elbows and knees and as since the beginning of the video, I've been getting him into all kind of bodybuilding and flexing poses. And now we got him posing with one foot up on a higher ground and his hand resting on his knee. And this is like he can get into all kind of really interesting poses for an action figure. So the articulation goes, it's really well done. The only problem, the big problem with his articulation is his neck, because his head is unable to go back far enough for him to get into that swimming pose, which for most other characters it's okay, but Tiger Shark is a underwater kind of guy. He is the kind of guy that need to swim. So if he can't get into a swimming pose, that's problematic. And the reason why he can't get into that swimming pose is the giant shark fin that come out from the top of his head. The fin come out from the top of his head and extend down his back. Uh, and since it's attached to his head, which means anytime he tilts his head back to get into that swimming pose, the fin is going to butt up against his spine, which basically make him unable to look up. So that is problematic, but I don't know if there's actually any way for them to fix that, unless they would have made the fin articulated so it can move out of the way when he tilt his head up. But that is the only real problem with his articulation. I mean, some people say, well, he doesn't have the butterfly joint, which means he can't really cross his arm across his over his chest. Well, that is true. He's lacking that particular joint because back then, relatively few action figures had that construction. Nowadays, we're seeing that more and more. But honestly, myself, I don't really like it when action figures have butterfly joints because most action figures that have butterfly joints, when they cross their arm, they look strange because it's not like human body where your skin will stretch and your muscles will flex and move out of the way. On an action figure, when you want them to have butterfly joints, you have to add a piece of flesh in the armpit. So when they cross their arm, there's not going to be a big gap there. But what's going to happen is it looks like they have a lump of muscles there that shouldn't be there, which to me is a little bit weird. But anyway, that's just my personal take on that. Uh, so this large human male body that Tiger Shark is built on is definitely a lot of fun for people to pose and fiddle around with. Now he is mostly orange and purple. That is his outfit. He's in the orange and purple. I guess you can say like a skin-tight suit. I don't really know. Like I know his suit actually has a special ability by rehydrating his body when he's out of water, so he's not going to die. So that's what I know about the suit. But because it's all painted on, I can't really tell you what kind of suit it's supposed to be. I can tell you that there's interesting, really jagged pattern in the front and the back that make look like he got shark teeth in the front and the back of his body. Of course, because most of the body is reused, the only real unique part about Tiger Shark action figure is his head, because that is totally Tiger Shark. Like I said, there's a giant purple fin that come out of top of his head. Now, some people say that is actually part of his mask, but some people say that's actually part of his body. So I'm not quite sure. Maybe if you guys, if some of you read the comic and know if that's really a part of his body or if that's part of his outfit, can let me know in the comment section. Uh, that giant fin put him at approximately over 7 inches tall, so it add a good inch of height onto him, making him look definitely more imposing. If we look at a close up of the fin, this is actually quite interesting. It's kind of got a pearlescent coloration to it and has very interesting texture. Like they definitely got that shark skin texture on the fin that is all rough and bumpy and has a bit of a waviness to it rather than straight totally straight like a razor blade. It's kind of wavy, like it's moving underwater or something. So that is the interesting part about this character. His most defining feature is fin on top of his head, which incidentally, there's another character. Most of you might not know it. It's kind of sideline character called Savage Dragon. Although there was a Savage Dragon cartoon in the 90s. Savage Dragon is from a different comic, but he looked a lot like Tiger Shark. Also have a fin on his head, like this. Close up, we can see that Tiger Shark has gray skin and gray eyes, and his mouth is pulled back in this giant front that show all his really scary teeth. If you count, there's actually 17 teeth in there, so that's really good attention to details, and they look really wicked and sharp. In addition to his super strength and super tough body and super speed, Tiger Shark also have a mouthful of teeth that got upgraded to adamantium. uh, those of you that don't read Marvel comic wouldn't know what adamantium is. It's basically the toughest metal in the world. Just think of it, it's not really, but it's really, really tough. Like, it's tougher than titanium, it's tougher than steel, it's unbreakable. So I don't know how and where and why he got his teeth replaced with adamantium, but he did. So he also got a whole mouthful of lethal weapons there. So let's look at the total skill set and power set of Tiger Shark. Like I said, most of the time he's just low tier but really scary henchman that people get to fight on their side. He is effectively insane. So this is part of his tragic story that he is not out there committing crime because he likes it. The power in his body made him mad and drove him insane. So part of his plot is the heroes constantly trying to find ways to cure him of his insanity because once he's cured, then he can go back and being Todd Arliss, the loving normal human being. Um, so what exactly is all he can do? Well, underwater, he can swim up to 60 miles an hour. He can jump to incredible height when leaping out of the water like a torpedo. His strength is so great that he can lift up to 75 tons of weight when he's well hydrated. And he has a mouthful of adamantium teeth, of course. Um, his fighting style, well, he doesn't really have a fighting style because he doesn't really have a fighting technique. He doesn't know how to fight properly. So Tiger Shark usually he uses his massive strength to throw cars and trucks and buildings and structures at people and grab them and smash them and tear them apart and stuff like that. So he is a definite bruiser in combat. Very little tactics. However, in some story arc, he has been shown to be able to to perform complex things like use firearms and explosives and fix underwater structures and repair boats and stuff like that. So he is not all muscle and no brain. He definitely has a brain. He just uh, when it comes to fighting, he is really, really savage and uh, prefer to just outmuscle his opponent most of the time. His one biggest weakness is the longer he's out of water, the more dehydrated he becomes. And if he's out of water for too long, he actually will die. And the longer he's out of water, the weaker and weaker he gets. This is why he wears this special outfit, this special suit that will keep him hydrated so he can perform at peak capacity even out of water. His unique physiology also allow him to have rapid healing factor. So whenever he get injured, as long as he can get exposed to seawater, has to be seawater. I don't know why, but as long as he's exposed to seawater, he can heal really quickly. His body is super tough. He's effectively bulletproof and can ward off superhuman attacks, even from likes of Prince Neymar, who's one of the strongest characters on Earth in the Marvel universe. Now, before we go, we'll do a quick size comparison so you guys can see how big Tiger Shark is compared to a regular human-sized character. Here is Tiger Shark posed up beside Daredevil. Now, Daredevil is basically what you would call a normal human in a Marvel comic. I mean, assuming that normal human works out a lot and get a lot of muscles. But Daredevil is, your typical 6 feet tall, like 190 pounds, or so very typical human build. So we can see that standing next to him, Tiger Shark is not significantly taller unless you count the fin on his head. If you count the fin on his head, then he's really tall. But just to the top of his head, he's just a little bit taller than Daredevil. So that kind of makes sense because his bio says he's 6'1". Daredevil, I believe, is 6 feet tall. Uh, so there's a little bit of height difference, but shouldn't be a lot. But what we can see is there's a massive uh, difference in the width of their chest and the build on them. Tiger Shark is clearly huge, like almost look like he's twice the size of Daredevil across the chest and arms and legs and all that stuff. So uh, I think that's very accurate for this big bruiser character. He should be thicker and bigger than your typical human-sized characters. And here is Daredevil being caught by Tiger Shark in a vicious headlock. Not a very good place to be if you're fighting someone like a Tiger Shark. So even though Tiger Shark is a very low tier villain, he definitely fulfills both the tiger and the water part of the year of the water tiger. So he is the prime candidate for our action figure of the day. Next week, I can't even talk anymore. Next week, we'll come back and look at another action figure, this time a good and proper tiger action figure. So stay tuned. I'll be back later today for the Fitness Friday. For now, have a good rest of the afternoon.